Well, g'day guys, Jace here, and welcome to day 2. Now, I want to start with asking you, did you do your affirmations? Look, you got to take action, right, guys. You've got to take action. Remember, the goal of this program is to change your mentality, and we started with that pillar, which is mentality, right? You have to take action if you want to see some progress. I know it's uncomfortable, it might feel weird, but if you want to get out of your comfort zone, if you really want to change, I encourage you to please get to that little challenge from yesterday. And did you do your affirmations? Are you repeating those? I am healthy, I am fit, I feel awesome. Are you repeating those minimum 20 times a day? If you want to change your autopilot's destination, you have to. This is a must. Okay, for today's challenge, what we're going to do is we're going to be covering nutrition. I'm going to give you my best stuff regarding nutrition. Remember, as a dietitian who's worked in this industry for well over 10 years, I've seen hundreds of guys, once they have their mind right, be able to apply the fundamentals of nutrition and get some incredible results. In fact, I've got one client that I'm going to share with you later on that's lost over 60 kilograms. 60 kilograms, this is huge. Somewhere upwards of about 130 pounds. That's like another man altogether. And he's done that by making really simple changes to his nutrition. And here's the thing, you get such a bang, such a return on your investment if you nail your nutrition. But one really important point that I have to hammer home is we do not advocate diets. Dieting does not work. I'm going to show you the time-proven basics of nutrition that I use to stay healthy as a 37-year-old dude. And if you follow these basic steps, you will immediately start to see changes in your body, because I don't need to sell you anything. These are the things that work. I'm not trying to sell you the newest grand program. I'm trying to coach you on how to change your life. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so as we said, we're on to now nutrition, which is one of the primary pillars, okay? So for me, I just think it's so important, and you get so much leverage for so little time investment with nutrition. You compare that to exercise, and obviously going and physically exercising takes a time investment. With nutrition, it can actually take you less time. So that's like a really, really positive return. So we've moved from mentality to nutrition, and let's move forward into kind of giving you a bit more of an idea of why this is so important. Okay, so let's slide up, and I want to start with this one here. If you asked me what is more important out of nutrition and exercise, particularly to a time-poor gentleman like yourself who used to be healthy but now just wants to just feel good again because he just got to a point where he's like, I need to change. Well, nutrition gives you the best return on investment. It's like going to the casino and winning big, because you put in just a few changes and you get massive results. You've heard the old phrase, abs are made in the kitchen. Well, look, I think it's much more important than that. Beautiful bodies are made in the kitchen. It takes less time. And you've got to ask yourself, what is the reason that we are struggling? What is really the reason that really our nutrition, how is it that technology's got better, but we're all now, like 2/3 of the world is overweight or obese? How is that happening? Well, it's because of these 3 reasons here. We are time poor. We need convenience, right? If I set up these challenge videos to go hours and hours and hours, you might get lots of information that you'd be confused and it wouldn't be digestible, which is why we're keeping them to 15 to 20 minutes. Time poor people want convenience. The second point is we're naive. Everyone thinks that they're an expert. Everyone gets on these daytime TV shows and posts upon the newest shake diet and the newest fad. Well, guess what? We were built as humans thousands of years ago. Our evolution hasn't changed that much in a few thousand years that would warrant all these new diets. Like, think about that. Mother Nature is always right. Mother Nature is always right. and it built a body to be able to cope with the worlds that are upon it. Do you think that we're meant to be able to order Uber Eats to our lounge? That's not the way we're meant to work. So my style of nutrition coaching is really to think about how things would have been 1,000, 2,000 years ago and adopt as much as we can that principle. Not be naive and pick up these latest diets. And the third reason that we eat poorly is because we're addicted. Do you know that sugar lights up the same centers of your brain, releasing the same chemical compounds as cocaine? In fact, there's some new studies coming out that suggest that sugar may actually be more addictive than white powder. Can you believe it? So let's talk about this age-old debate about calories versus different diets. Oh gosh, I don't want to go into the details too much, the chemical details of this, but it's very, very simple, okay? It's very simple. If you eat more calories than you burn up, you're gonna put on weight. That's what will happen. If you burn up more calories than you put into your body, you will lose weight. That's what's gonna happen. These calories, really what they are, is portions of food that are measured in terms of energy. Now, if we eat a certain amount of energy, think about a car. If we fuel up that car to its full tank, where does that extra energy go, that extra petrol go? The only thing it can do is spill out the sides, right? The problem is humans don't have that mechanism. We can't just spill fuel out. I guess we could spew it up, right? But the point is we can't just, so what happens is we store it as body fat. Now, if we're training at the same time and not going too far into a calorie surplus, we might actually put on muscle. But for the majority of us, what body fat actually is just a stored form of energy, of nutrition that in the old days meant that if you went through a month of starvation, you actually had some fuel to be able to call upon. So from an evolutionary sense, it's actually a very healthy thing. But from a modern day sense, accumulation of body fat is bad. It squeezes your heart and lungs, putting those organs under a tremendous amount of pressure. And that's the reason why men have heart attacks. So the most important thing, and let's not complicate this, when it comes to managing your weight, is calorie balance. So then you might ask the next question, well, what if I was to eat 2,000 calories of pure sugar versus 2,000 calories of a healthy, balanced diet? If what you're saying, Jace, is true, then it wouldn't matter whether it's all sugar, right? Well, from a weight perspective, this could be true. However, think about this from a health perspective. If we were fueling, we know fundamentally if we're fueling on a balanced diet of good healthy foods versus the same amount of calories but pure sugar, how is your car going to run? And that's the way to think about this. Bad fuel equals crap performance. So both the amount of calories and the type of calories are important. If you're throwing 1,000 calories of sugar into your body every single day, you know that you're going to get a crap performance. So of course, when it comes to healthy eating and weight management, we've got to look at both the number and the type. Does that make sense? So let's get into it. So this is really, really important, and I've seen this diagram before. So on the left-hand side here, we've got a bunch of popular diets: keto, intermittent fasting, paleo, low fat, Weight Watchers. Now they all market themselves as being just like crazy, revolutionary, but you know from what we've talked about already in this challenge that this is just trying to sell you something. So for example, keto, no carbs, high fat, moderate protein; paleo, all organic, natural foods. Weight Watchers is a point-based system. But what every single diet has in common is not some unique, fascinating revelation. It's that they all create a calorie deficit. Isn't that liberating to know? So it doesn't matter what program you follow. If you create a calorie deficit, you lose weight. So for any of these guys that enter into this keto versus intermittent fasting versus Weight Watchers debate, whatever it is that's the diet that you're most interested in, guess what? If it creates a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. It's simple science. And any bullshit to the contrary is just trying to sell you something. So, we're going to focus on 2 points here. We're going to focus on eating less calories, not less food. That's very, very important. I'm going to show you some images of my typical meals, and you will see that I am never hungry because what I'm eating is nutrient-dense foods, not calorie-dense food. Does that make sense? How liberating would it be if you were able to just go and eat well and feel full without feeling like you're a rabbit pecking at some grass? I hate that image. I hate when I see guys on Facebook crying out for help because their diet hasn't worked, when I'm eating this mass amount of food because I've created a non-restriction mindset. I've increased my capacity, and men, that's what I urge you to do, is to increase your capacity. We want you eating more food, not less, but better food that is nutrient dense. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to take you through 3 key strategies. These 3 key strategies, guess what? They will take care of 80% of the nutritional issues that you need to cross. So learn them and learn them well. I take these strategies through my coaching clients. They get a few additional ones that are outside of these, but certainly in terms of the primary elements, these are what you need to know. Strategy 1, eat 80% real foods. Real foods are foods that your grandma would recognize, right? She wouldn't recognize half the foods that she sees in a shopping center at the moment. And guess what? Real foods will rot. They go off. They used to be alive, but now we are consuming them dead, but they used to be real. Like, this is really important. A potato crisp was not real. A potato was real. So if you look down at your trolley or look into your fridge and you see a variety of foods like these, guess what? You're gonna be on point. If you look down and you think 80% of what I eat on my plate is unpackaged, apart from the little bit of Glad wrap that comes over the top of the meat, it's in its natural unprocessed state. And when you're eating foods like that, do you think that's more representative of what our hunter and gatherer types used to do? Of course it was. Right? Do you think we're meant to be able to go to the shopping center and pull out plastic and rip it open and microwave? It's not how it's meant to go. If you look at my meals, they're always going to be of the constituents of a chunk of meat, a carbohydrate food, and tons of veggies. This is the way you stay full, and guess what? You'll lose weight. Because these foods are not as calorie dense as the processed versions. What happens when you process food, you add back in sugar and fat, which puts the calories up and makes it very difficult for you to burn off. We're going to talk about this in a later session, but guess what happens? When you become stressed and underslept, you crave these types of foods because your blood sugar is high. And so you keep eating these foods and it gets even worse because you don't burn this blood sugar off. So all of a sudden, you start to get belly fat. Is this making sense? So that's strategy 1, whole foods. Let's go to strategy 2. We need to plan our meals. We cannot eat reactively. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to do 17 days of meal prep, but you need to think, right, I've got a meeting on here, I'm going to be working till here, I've got training this afternoon, whatever it is that interrupts your day. If you are eating on the run, like the guy in the diagram here, if you're eating on the run at your desk, it's most likely going to be food that you've pulled from a cafe or that you've pulled from a packaging, right? So that goes against strategy 1. It needs to be something that you've brought from home until you learn to read food labels or read cafe menus. And I teach that in my programs, my personal coaching, so we can talk about this a bit more. But for the most part, if you're prepared, if you're bringing food from home, And it could be, one of my favorites, for example, is to stick a bunch of rocket, avocado, cherry tomatoes, cracked pepper and salt, and then take 2 cans of tuna and dump it in on top. Put it all in the container at the start of the day, and guess what? That's lunch done. Lunch done. Okay? So the second strategy is you can't eat reactively. Now, I'll give you an example. If you decide to go home and you think, you know what? I'd really like some McDonald's. Guess what? You've made a choice to eat McDonald's. That's fine. What becomes a problem is when you go home, find yourself starving, going through the drive-through and ordering McDonald's on automation. That's reactive eating. And this is why, remember we talked about in the earlier slides, people crave convenience and they're naive and they are addictive. So if you don't prepare, you're not going to ever be able to counter the challenges that happen in your day and still stay energetic and free. So strategy number 2 is to be prepared. Now, strategy number 3 is really, it's a big one, but it's also very easy to implement. And we're not even going to talk about alcohol here. We're going to talk about liquid calories coming from non-alcoholic drinks. So strategy 3 is the most potent for most men. Don't drink your calories, lads. Don't drink your calories. Think about it. If you were to take a juice, okay, and how many oranges would it take to squeeze a full glass of orange juice? Maybe 7, 8? Would you ever eat 8 oranges in one go? I probably think not. So what's going to have the most amount of calories? Having something like 8 oranges that you're dumping down in liquid form, or eating 1 orange as a snack? Of course, the liquid fashion. It's so much easier to get through your body and therefore dump calories into your body. Now let's look at some examples here. These typical fruit juices or shakes, a 600 ml serving contains somewhere between 400 to 600 calories per day. Now, given the average man needs about 2,500 calories, that means for you guys that are drinking things like banana milkshakes in the morning, right? That's having a quarter of your total daily intake in one shake. What about Coke? For all you guys that are soda fans, 16 teaspoons of sugar. Imagine I was sitting opposite you in a cafe and I said, hey man, would you like a glass of water? And you were like, yeah, sure, give me a glass of water. And then I opened up 16 sachets or 16 cubes, stuck them into your water and passed it to you and said, there you go, brother, enjoy that. Would you drink it? Because when you're consuming a 600 ml glass or bottle of Coke, that's exactly what you're doing. It's crazy to think about it, right? And so then you'll be thinking to yourself, well, what do I drink? It's very, very simple. I've got the obvious things like water as the best hydrating agent, but there are choices within choices. And I'm going to give you a few of my favorites. Soda or mineral water. They contain no calories. All they are is effectively just bubbled up water. Now, what about black coffee? I'm a massive advocate of black coffee, and we're going to talk about this in just a second, but black coffee is really a way to achieve 2 things, some hydration, and it also kills your hunger with 0 calories. How good's that? Basically nothing. You could switch from having full cream lattes and almost halve your calorie intake to go to skim milk, or even better, unsweetened almond milk. You could chop out calories from your Coke and instead take what I think is one of the best actions you can take and start drinking kombucha. So if you're one of these people that are really addicted to fizzy type drinks, guess what? You still get the fizz with kombucha, but hardly any calories and all of the gut benefits. If you don't know what kombucha is, I suggest you look it up. It's a fermented drink that does wonders for your gut as well. So there is the 3 strategies, guys. Whole foods. What's the next one? Don't eat reactively and don't drink your calories. In fact, it's a very simple equation. You eat real food, you plan your meals, and you remove the liquid calories, you get fat loss. Is that simple? Isn't it cool to just get it in that simple fashion? bugger off, I nearly said the F word, bugger off all of these other diets, eat real food, plan your meals, remove the liquid calories, and you get fat loss. It's quite liberating, isn't it? So we're getting to the end here, and I want to share with you one technique that I definitely do recommend and I want you to take up immediately. And this is called intermittent fasting. Now, note that I mentioned at the start, all that intermittent fasting is actually doing is it's helping you to create a calorie deficit. But the challenge is, for most men, because we are time poor, we're running out the door in the morning and grabbing something convenient. We think that we're actually hungry, but it's our awareness that's lacking. So we just eat as a matter of habit. What I want you to start considering doing, and it's hard for the first week, is just simply skipping breakfast. This is a really simple technique to completely change your weight very quickly. You have your first meal at around midday. This is assuming you're not a shift worker. And you basically don't eat anything from 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Don't get too technical, whenever it was that you had dinner, all the way around the clock. Now what that does is means that between the hours of 12 and maybe 8 p.m., your eating window has shrunken down. So you simply cannot eat that much food to put you into an overweight state during that smaller eating window. Now, initially, you might think of this as a diet, and you think, Jace, isn't that hypocritical? You're not an advocate of diet. I'm not an advocate of diet at all, and it's not a diet. All intermittent fasting does is tells you the window to eat. It tells you nothing about what to eat or what you shouldn't eat. And I really think this is a really powerful technique. I've used it myself. I still do it every day through the week, and I've used it with multiple clients. It's very simple. Don't get technical about it. Don't listen to all this crap about, what do I break my fast with? You don't need it. You don't need any products. You just skip breakfast. You survive on water, black coffee, black tea, green tea, sodas, soda water. So things that don't contain any calories to blunt your hunger. And then at 12 o'clock, you have your first meal and you eat as normal. So what you're simply doing is creating a window that's shrinking for you to take in calories, and therefore a calorie deficit. So here's this week's challenge. Guys, I want you to start this powerful technique of intermittent fasting from tomorrow. Then what I want you to do is take a selfie, right? When you make it to 12 o'clock, take a selfie and just simply say, guys, made it to 12 o'clock, and post it on the group wall. Then what I want you to do is use one of our strategies that we've talked about as part of our 3 strategies for eating healthfully. I want you to take a photo of your real food dinner. No packaging. I've given you some examples of what I eat here, and as you can see, it's all real food. There's no packaging food at all. And I just want you to post that photo on the group wall and say, guys, here's my real food dinner. You see, remember guys, we're talking about habits. It's about making small changes. These are the small changes that time and time again, cumulatively add up to big impacts upon your weight. So there's the challenge should you wish to accept it. Post it on the group wall. Well done on completing today's video. And if you do want to schedule an appointment to chat a little bit more about potentially how it can help you, hit the button below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in day 3.